Kim Stanley Robinson, in my opinion, is one of the top science fiction writers at the moment. Regarding Red Moon, I didn't like this book. I didn't like it for a lot of reasons, and it feels as though this book shouldn't exist. What I mean by that is we shouldn't have put it on a shelf and told people to read it. There's so many ways in which it doesn't feel like a finished novel. I expected more. We do get a lot of cool thinking about the moon and thinking about what it would be like to have certain types of communities on the moon. And one of my favorite parts of the book, they go to a place called China Dream, which is like inside of a lunar crater. And this place has all of the cool things that you could imagine. It's like a fun zone for people who want to do moon stuff. There's air you can breathe inside of this crater. There's like all this infrastructure set up for flinging yourself throughout the crater. So like you could start at the very top and like fling yourself down and grab onto things and swing like Tarzan. You think about what would it be like to actually be a creature who lives in some sort of biome on the moon under this extremely different G. I'm not going to hold up the book the whole time. It is huge. So that's we're already changing the format of the show here, but that's fine. The main character is somebody named Fred Fredericks, and he's essentially like a placeholder white American dude who doesn't do much or say much, and things happen around him. Fred's going to deliver this quantum entanglement messaging system machine to a person. That person, his name is Chang Yazu, and as he delivers this thing, Chang Yazu is killed by operatives from a secret group, which we don't find out until the end of the book who that secret group is, but Fred Fredericks is now the de facto suspect in this murder. So he's taken in by the police, and he doesn't remember anything. He's like just as freaked out as everyone else because it was some kind of like momentary befuddling that occurred, okay? And so he goes back to Earth with the help of his friend that he met on the way to the moon, whose name is Tashu. He's a poet, but he's a travel YouTuber, it seems like. The first 200 pages of the book are boring, man. Sure, there's like a chase. Like the entire book, this Fred Fredericks person is with a Chinese princeling woman named Chan Chi. And she is pregnant, and by the end of the book is like going to have her baby, but the whole time, you know, they're being chased by this faction or that group of police or this country. They're going back and forth from Earth to the moon for whatever reason. The cast of characters is interesting. There's Tashu and his friend Joe, and they have like this little poetry competition that they do every time they talk, where they like make a poem and then read their poems to each other. And it's like, that's kind of interesting, but also, is this a side character or is this like one of the main characters? I don't know. There's also a character who's like an analyst building an AI tool called Little Eyeball. The analyst's name we never learn, but he is building this little AI tool that eventually, after this analyst gets arrested, this AI tool gets into the system and starts doing things that conveniently advance the plot or tie together certain characters. That part is kind of interesting. I would say the AI that gets out and starts doing stuff, and it's a whole gamble on the part of the analyst. There'll be like an analyst chapter, and they'll talk about the situation with the political system in China or the factions on the moon and what's going on, and he'll be trying to find out information. Little eyeball things. I do really like in the Kim Stanley Robinson books, just so that this isn't just like me pooping on this book, because I know what it's like to spend so much time writing a book and then going back over it being like, what is in this? What is going on here? So I'm like sympathetic to it, and I do like these moments where it's like the analyst is teaching the AI like how to be and how to like learn and how to, but I just also think that type of thing at this point in history is about to be boring. So imagine reading a novel and half the novel or a good part of it is somebody in his basement prompt engineering, just like typing little commands into his OpenClaw soul.md file I don't think any of us are going to want to read that at this point. So I do think there's like a certain historical tendency in the Kim Stanley Robinson books where he's like talking about AIs and how those are going to be doing stuff, where it's almost to the point where that is obsolete. Like, sure, it seems like a very futuristic thing when the book comes out in 2018, but here we are in 2026, and it's like that stuff is actually real now, and it doesn't work the way that he has it in the book. Like, it would make a lot of mistakes, this little thing. Like, it might end up, the little eyeball in this book might end up just suing the analyst for creating it and making it work for free. That is some of the emergent stuff happening with OpenClaw. Anyway, a lot of this stuff got lost on me. I feel like, there was a concerted effort by the author to get me to understand the geopolitical situation. Like, what is going on in China? What are all the things that people care about? How does a political system change? What if you had to change it all at once? What if you had a revolutionary figure decreeing things from the moon? What if there was an AI that could help you get in touch with everyone aligned with your cause and condense your message into something that would get everyone to back you? There's certain interesting questions here. I just feel like the book did not do enough work getting me to care about the characters and what the characters are doing, thinking, and deciding, because a lot of the book is just sort of narration. It's narration of, sure, we're following a character around, we're following Fred Fredericks around, or Tashu, or the analyst, or in some cases Chan-Chi, we're following her around, but we never really get into their heads to know. Like, we're in Fred Fredericks' head a little bit, we're in Tashu's head more, I'd say. Never really in Chan-Chi's head very much. It seems like the book doesn't know quite how to get into these people and make them full characters, but it does know how to spend 10 pages teaching you about what it's like on the moon, or what certain things would happen on the moon from like a scientific perspective. It does a lot of pontificating about what geopolitics would be like or might be like. But from a Western white person's point of view, I feel like he does go out of his way to try to make it seem legitimate. And he obviously did a lot of research, right? But there's things that I would arguably say there's entire chapters based off of the U.S. propaganda position on certain Chinese historical events. I just feel that this book, yes, while it exists, my question is, does this book exist because of like the fact that it was a completed piece of stuff, or does it exist because there was a book contract that needed to be fulfilled? There needed to be a book on a shelf, a collection of pages with this author's name on it on a shelf, because it's 450 pages. And I'll say I did not appreciate that a lot of it is just very dense, what seems to be like extrapolations from Wikipedia, but then like fast forward 30 years or 20 years even. So I think there was like maybe 150 pages extra of just like explanatory stuff that may be interesting to the author. It wasn't interesting to me. And then, okay, so there's an extra 150 pages, and then the story that we're following, there's really only a few places where we're getting that like mental image of what's going on and what our characters are doing and why we care about them and how we care about them. And then it just abruptly ends. There is no resolution. And I know a lot of times when there's an abrupt ending, we're supposed to read that as maybe it's just a hopeful ending. Maybe it's intentional that they left us hanging, but we're supposed to, since they've primed us throughout the book, we're supposed to read that as like, oh, I'm sure everything worked out fine, A lot of the stuff just didn't read very believable to me either. Like, for example, towards the end of the book, Chan-Chi has used some sort of either quantum entanglement device or neutrino encryption device or laser beam that she's shot from like a rover to get stuff back to Earth. There's too many different ways that the author is like trying to get you to like oh, there's this way to communicate to Earth, or maybe we could communicate this way to Earth, or maybe there's this way. But they're all in the novel. Pick one. Pick one. And then, based on this message that Chang-Chi is sent back to Earth, there's missiles sent from Earth that are pinpoint missiles, like as in guided as they're flying, that are meant to kill her. And so at one point they're in a rover, and they get a little call from Ta Shu, who's this poet / YouTube blogger, but then he, maybe one of the only characters we see with any interiority, because his mom dies and he goes home to Earth, and he's transporting her stuff to a garbage can on a bike. And that's the only that this person gets reduced down to, essentially at the end, they're just like the Seth Green character in The Italian Job. They're just I'm looking at screens, I'm telling you what's going on, you got to go left, you got to go right, etc. And okay, that wasn't very satisfying. It feels as though the last 30 pages are just Kim Stanley Robinson going, oh crap, I need to turn this thing in, and how can I wrap this thing up? How can I wrap it up? So the whole thing, it feels just like there was a different person who started the book than who finished writing the book. So it's just Fred Fredericks, he's going up to the moon. He's got to deliver some quantum entanglement messaging system. I don't remember which one it is. And when I say I don't remember which one it is, that just means it's hard for the reader to understand or remember which one it is. I would spend a whole lot of time here probably going through oh, this happens and then this happens and then this happens. But honestly, I don't think I would recommend this book. I don't think this book deserves the treatment of this happens and then this happens. And also, I'm not sure if people want that. For my Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep video, I went through everything that happens in that book, personally, for me, so that I remember it. And this is a book I don't really want to remember. It's one of those brain teasers where I'm like, how does a writer that's this good put something like this on the shelf? And I blame, without knowing anything, I blame the publishing industry and them being like, do you have anything else? What can you slap together in the next 3 months? And he's like, oh, let me bottom of the drawer this thing that I have here. It's called Moon Chase or something like that. And they're like, well, let's call it Red Moon because it has to do with China. And I feel like that's as far as it went. They're like, oh, just slap an ending on that and we'll get someone to edit it and then we'll publish that. That's what that feels like to me. And I don't want to be an asshole or anything, because I understand, I know what it feels like to write a book and then go through and just be like, I don't know if this is a book. That's where I'm at with this. 2.5, should it exist, out of 5. Those are my thoughts. I don't think you need to read it. I'm not sure I needed to read it. I'm not sure I'm glad I read it. It's going to go in a little free library now. So if you're walking by that, feel free to pick it up. Now that that's over with, I just want to mention that recently this channel's reached 50 followers, and I couldn't be happier about that. 50, for some reason, feels like a lot, even though I know it's only 50. But yeah, I just want to thank everyone who watches the channel, who enjoys reading books, who enjoys hearing about me reading books, is curious how my brain interacted with something that somebody else's brain created out of nothing. I do want to keep making videos like this, so a subscribe if you are just passing by does help. This book exists, is going to keep existing, because I think these books are going to keep existing. Although I've been reading some stuff that's concerning. I'm looking at you, Anthropic. Until next time, I'm Adam Holwerda, and this book, Red Moon, does exist. Thanks so much.